Yes.
Nice commercial.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh
give me some
yeah.
of those beans, baby.
We got
Okay, I'm gonna go get my hat.
yes, we got all the
Go and get it.
beans. All the beans going on. How you doing, Rico?
Nice of you to join us,
Beans
You
on
with
beans
Rico.
us?
on beans on beans on beans.
Yeah. You with us
How's it
tonight? You
going,
got
Rico
this?
Lamitte? Doing this
Yeah.
down on the
Yes,
street?
yeah.
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you perfect. Is your audio settings set?
Technical difficulties over here.
Yeah, you sound. I think you're using your MacBook mic and not your actual mic because I can hear the static in the background.
No good, no good. It's all about the audio.
Yes. Oh
Not to
man.
add pressure to the
All right.
situation.
Well, I guess I'm going to start the story off real quick. I'm going to get it going, you guys. Today, my story comes out of DC. That's right, Gretchen's backyard. Because even as Congress says no, the DC Council found a way to expand legal marijuana sales. The bill approved unanimously by the council dramatically expands the city's existing medical marijuana program. It lifts existing caps on how many dispensaries are allowed to operate and increases the number of cultivation centers that can operate. It creates new licenses for marijuana delivery services, educational offerings like cooking classes, Gretchen, internet-based sales, and on-site marijuana use areas for dispensaries. Basically, what they're saying in that is consumption lounges, and I'm not sure how they're going to have online sales when we have no safe banking, but nonetheless. And it sets aside a large number of these new licenses for so-called social equity applicants, defined broadly as those who are low income or live in low income areas or people who have served time in prison. The bill will also make permanent an emergency measure passed over the last summer that lets people self-certify for medical marijuana. In essence, no more need for a doctor's note in the DC metro area. But the bill doesn't stop there. It also offers the city's many gifting stores, the dispensary style retailers like the ones, a high priced sticker price for clothing as a gift. You know, all those gifting stores that operate under the skies of cannabis sales, but they're really selling weed, even though they're selling you a dirty sock. The chance to apply for a medical marijuana license, thus leaving behind the unregulated and illicit gray market, which is often prone to police raids, they say, even though I don't know if I necessarily call them raids. I call them maybe snatch and grabs or something like that. But nonetheless, on its face, the bill is simply a means to expand access to medical marijuana, which has been legal for almost a decade, but it is also a creative solution to a problem outside the city's control. Since 2015, Congress has prohibited D.C. from legalizing and regulating sales of adult use marijuana, which city officials have long wanted to do. The unregulated gifting market that started with discrete events but has blossomed into a large number of brick and mortar stores that city officials say do more than $600 million worth of business each year. Under Initiative 71, approved by the voters in late 2014, it's legal to possess, grow, use, and give away small amounts of marijuana in D.C. What small amount is defined as is anyone's guess, but let's continue. As the gifting industry grew, the city's small and tightly regulated medical marijuana dispensaries and cultivators complained they were losing customers and revenue. Lawmakers responded by loosening restrictions capped off by the vote earlier this year to allow people to self-certify for medical marijuana. That alone more than doubled the number of people registered in the medical marijuana program from 12,000 earlier this year to roughly 25,000 come November. But what to do with the gifters remained a sticking point. DC can't legalize them, but Chairman Phil Mendelson's multiple efforts to ramp up city enforcement on them prompted pushback from an increasingly organized and politically active gifting industry, and those efforts were eventually rejected by many of his colleagues. Ultimately, weeks after negotiations between Mendelson and council member Kenyon McDuffie from D5 ward, including during a recent 3-hour Amtrak train ride from a conference they both attended led to a creative compromise. The gifting shops would be offered a genuine so-called on-ramp into the legal and newly expanded medical marijuana market with an emphasis on offering licenses to local and minority applicants. Lawmakers insist that they are abiding by the congressional prohibition since they aren't technically legalizing recreational sales, but some gifters see the bill as a clever way to legalize and regulate a market that already exists under or using the only mechanism the city has available to it. In a quote, "I think the writing is on the wall as far as the gifting model goes. It was a great run. It was a long run. Some good, some bad came with it. But if you want to operate in Washington, D.C., where again, we just do not and most likely will not have state autonomy, which you shouldn't have, this is the only solution for you," they say, says Mark Negley, a co-owner of Pink Fox, a high-end clothing retailer and also a gifter. "We were in between a rock and a hard place," he says. And then it goes on to talk about the legislation a little bit, and they're like, that's the carrot, but the bill also contains a stick. Any gifters that do not apply for a medical marijuana license or meet the qualifications for one will be subject to ramped up civil enforcement through it's not expected to begin for almost a year. The Generational Equity Movement, a coalition of some gifters, say that the bill represents progress, and the I-71 committee, another coalition of gifters, calls the bill a great improvement over prior drafts that would have given gifters less time to apply for licenses and ramped up civil enforcement more quickly. Still, the committee worries that the new cultivators may not have time to keep up with the demands of the many new dispensaries that could come online. So I would love to hear, especially what Gretchen has to say, since she lives in the district, and what she thinks about this. But this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News.
I think that this is a good thing for the city. However, I am torn at times when medical programs are just swallowed up. And that's pretty much what DC is doing to allow people to get cannabis. I've been in the I-71 stores. There is not 1 ounce of weed in those stores from DC. So it's interesting. But another thing that DC also has that would be great for these shops is they have reciprocity. So anyone can come in from out of state if they're a medical patient, and you can purchase your cannabis here in DC. So I think the city's doing what they have to do. They've been screwed by Congress for a number of years, and I say they should go forward. And having conversations with these folks in the I-71 stores, I think they are more than willing and happy to get on board going for a license. I think these people have just been looking for an avenue. I don't think, I mean, of course, there will still be some illicit market, of course, but I think that a lot of them are going to take advantage of this and are going to be quite excited.
I think it's incredible. I think it's so incredible, giving a path, creating a path to real prosperity. And, you know, that's what it's all about when we're talking business. I think just being, you know, in Texas, and it's a legacy market here. We call it Liberty Market because it's flower still illegal.
Liberty Market.
Liberty
You could also
Market.
call it the Freedom Market too.
Yeah. But it's all about having that path. And I just, you know, DC, man, undercover. It's I don't know. As a Texan, it's like not on my radar. Only, you know, it's only on my radar because the president lives there. But it seems like, seriously,
I thought this president lived in Delaware.
He lives, I don't know. I think he lives
Doesn't
in
he
a
spend more
vat
time
somewhere
there?
in Vermont, and his brain's being manipulated. But that's for a different day. I just think it's really cool and really just inspiring.
I love that the medical market and creating the medical cards has created a lot of industry for all kinds of different, entrepreneurs in cannabis that don't really want to touch the flower, but that feel comfortable understanding the regulations around, providing people with their cards. But and I've benefited from the medical cannabis card industry. But I think it really
you have Dr. Mary.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a major part of my income, but it's a nice little side hustle that I've been doing for quite some time, and
Shout
I
out
think
to
a
the
lot of
side
doctors
hustle.
benefit from it. But the broader point of having a medical card and monitoring people who are using this drug is because the drug is dangerous. I mean, we monitor, people who are taking opiates, and we report people who are on amphetamines for ADHD, so that if you're getting your drugs from 3 different doctors, we have a national monitoring system to keep track of that. But I mean, cannabis has proven over and over again to be safe and effective with very limited drug-drug interactions. There's no reason to handle cannabis like opioids and amphetamines and other, addictive, dangerous prescription therapies. I mean, and when Washington D.C. opened it up for people to just get their own cards, that's what they said. That anybody over the age of 60 who wanted a card would just get a card because they presumed that they had something that was leading to needing the card. And I mean, it's everybody does. They've got a little arthritis or a little sleep or a little mood disorder or whatever, any of those minor conditions that the drug treats very effectively and super safely. It's the right decision to make the product available and try to eliminate some of these medical programs and the restrictions surrounding them.
Cannabis is a great remedy for old age too.
I think it will also be interesting to see, frankly, where they're going to cultivate all this. If we got to stick in DC,
I was going to ask you that, Gretchen.
No, there is no
because
metric. There is no
mentioned that
metric for the
earlier.
medical
Where's
system
where's it
going on in
coming from?
DC. It's
Where's it
all
coming
out
from?
of town weed. Do not get it twisted.
And is it
Even-
okay?
Even a lot of the people that live in DC grow in Virginia and other
Rooftop
Maryland
gardens.
and different spots.
there
So
are
cut it out.
simmer down. There are cultivation spots in DC, but I totally agree with you.
I've been to a
Please
couple,
grow.
but they're very small.
They are very
Pennsylvania
small, so I think you're going to see a proliferation of grows on top of rooftops. I think
No
that's
Well,
way.
also
definitely
would it
No
be-
one's going to be growing no boof weed out there like that.
How awesome would it
simmer
be if
down
they
there,
actually grew
Jason
weed
Beck.
on the White House lawn?
I mean, I will say
Yeah.
this.
George Washington grew it. We're going to grow it again.
like Michelle Obama.
Well, George Washington didn't grow shit. His slaves grew all of that.
Don't even.
All right,
Obama
let's not
Kush.
even go down there.
George Washington
Exactly.
did never touch the fucking
You know,
plant. It was
I
all
have-
his slaves' work.
I have walked through the national atrium in search of the marijuana plants, and I have still not found any marijuana plants in the national atrium.
They
Maybe
have
you should throw some seeds
petitioned to
when you're
put
in
it in
there.
there. But
They
it
have
is
petitioned to
federal
put it in-
land. Yeah.
I would
Do you have
support
anything in
that. I would
Smithsonian?
Yeah,
support
it's
that.
federal land, man.
Eleanor
It's just disgusting.
Holmes Norton has asked for it to go in there before, but it is federal property, so that's why it's not.
Shout
in there.
out to Eleanor Holmes Norton, big
Horns.
time.
Shout out to
on that one.
gifting in
And-
DC.
Shout
Okay,
out to
can I get a
Horns.
No,
hell yeah
they're
for
not allowed to
gifting in
gift anymore.
DC?
They're not allowed to gift anymore. They're no longer.
Well,
They're no
so
longer
no,
sorry,
it's
gifters.
done
Jason,
then?
when did
No,
it say
that's
that
not what I
this goes
heard.
into effect?
It
say
did not
anything?
say. It did not say when it goes into effect in the article.
Exactly.
So,
So it's
But-
all in effect.
but it says, but it did
Law.
say, that it did pass by the council unanimously, and
Yeah.
so I'm going to assume that since that passed, that technically that is the law, and since there is no enforcement for a year, that's
Well,
going to
the
give them
mayor
time.
has to sign it.
Assuming
yes.
makes an ass of you and me, Jason Beck.
That's
Fair
Okay,
enough.
and I remind you, this is the
Fair
law.
enough.
and
I
it's
understand. I
easy.
understand the
a
government
long time.
process. I understand the
That's a
government
little
process, and I'm
workaround.
just stating what the government has already stated.
I know. I'm
Okay.
just excited
So-
about gifting. Okay,
so if-
and I want it to live a little bit longer. So
You're so
not-
you're such in the Christmas spirit. I love it, Liz.
exactly. Thank you.
but-
Thank you.
I know. How could they be talking about getting rid of gifting in the Christmas season?
But I love the fact about
Sturgis.
this is the self certification. Okay, back in the days when there weren't very many doctors to write medical recommendations at all, and back when we had dispensaries in San Francisco, and this was before we even had medical cannabis as a law. So I'm talking 1994 to 1996. How you would get into 1444 Market Street is you would self-certify. You would walk up to the door. Wayne Jessamine would be standing there, and he would ask if you were sick, and you would say, yes, I was, and then you would be let into the door. And that's how it worked back then.
Wow.
I self-certified this summer when they allowed it. So, and I got my little medical
Nice.
card. Has my
You
picture on it.
self-certified? Did they give you a little token?
No,
We
you get a
self-certify
card.
You get a
every
card.
time we walk
get a
into
card.
the to get booze, we self-certify. Every time we buy a drink, we self-certify. Think of that. Think
Every
like,
time you buy a drink.
Yeah, man. It's like, oh, I need this.
But you
like,
I'm
literally
literally cigarettes. Go
you
get
drive
some
afterwards,
cigarettes.
you
I need
self-certify
that.
your good.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does.
No, I mean, why
just
should
saying.
marijuana be any different? Why should you have to go get a card and go through that whole process? Why
Because
can't
it's a
you
Schedule
buy
1
it?
drug. It's dangerous.
Oh my God! Take that thing out of your mouth, Jason.
Oh my God!
Yeah, we're gonna move this along. I do want to make one little announcement that I forgot to make at the beginning of the show. Yesterday we did get a report that the Astor Club was raided. I did speak with the Astor Club yesterday after the show, and they confirmed that did not happen. So that did not happen. The Astor Club was not raided yesterday, according to the Astor Club. And now we're going to move
where
along.
that report came
And
from.
just like
Coming
that,
up
we
next,
better than
Maybe a
Fox
competing
News.
club.
Coming up next, it's the dope dad himself. That's right, Rico Lamitte. When he is commonly taking cat naps with young little Zozo, you can also find him singing Baby Shark as a lullaby. Yes, and with his Daddy Shark ugly Christmas sweater on today, celebrating some Christmas cheer. We're just kind of going to leave it at that. It is the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Yes, indeed. Happy Feast of Saturnalia, everybody. For today's headline, I got an Empire State announcement being pushed out by New York Times, The Post, Gothamist, Bloomberg, and pretty much any other Big Apple covering publication. New York State's first recreational cannabis dispensary, Housing Works Cannabis Company, will indeed be opening December 29th in Manhattan. Yeah, go ahead and say it. Go ahead and put it out there. Yeah, I see you out there, Gretchen.
Love you, Jason.
It looks
So
like
exciting. I'm living vicariously so
like
hard on the
cannabis will be
29th.
coming a few weeks early, or excuse me, a few days early for Governor Kathy Hochul. It was announced a few hours after yesterday's show that New York's legal cannabis community will be ending 2022 on a high note, with the first adult use dispensary set to open next Thursday, 2 days before the state and city regulators' own self-imposed deadline. When Housing Works Cannabis Company opens its doors next week in Manhattan, it'll also be a win for the supporters of the New York social equity movement, as they'll be the first mover in that category as well. Per the press release, Housing Works is one of the first recreational cannabis dispensaries to be awarded a CAURD license in the state of New York, with their soft opening scheduled on Thursday, December 29th. The storefront will be operated by the iconic nonprofit with the same name, an organization saying it's dedicated to the relentless advocacy and life-saving services for tens of thousands of New Yorkers in need. Store manager Sasha Nugent was quoted saying, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and their nonprofit's mission remains as urgent as ever. They're eager to take the lead as a social equity model for America's cannabis industry, specifically with hiring practices and continued support of individuals and communities disproportionately impacted by the unjust war on drugs." The release also announced that all dispensary sales proceeds will be directed to the parent organization, Housing Works Incorporated, which was founded in 1990 with to address the dual crises of HIV/AIDS and homelessness. Housing Works Cannabis Company will be hosting a news conference at 10 a.m. Eastern next Thursday morning, and you better believe there'll be scheduled appearances on the agenda by all involved elected officials ahead of the official 4:20 p.m. opening to the public. An event of this magnitude will surely go down as one of the greatest ever in the history of political photo ops. There wasn't a ton of details more than what was put out in the press release, but if all goes as planned, even if it's just one shop opening, it seems Governor Hochul and Tremaine Wright follow through with their promise that New Yorkers are going to be able to buy weed before and ring in the new year in New York with legally bought cannabis. I don't know how many people will actually decide to stand in hours-long lines in freezing weather to buy overpriced cannabis from a Manhattan pot shop with so many question marks surrounding it, as opposed to literally no lines and cheaper tax-free freedom market bodega and or food truck weed. But New York is arguably the tourism capital of the world, and capitalism has an odd way of making people choose emotion over logic. I did the same thing countless times back in my early 20s, every time a limited run of J's hit the market at select retailers. Quick bit of advice for all you New Yorkers: Coleman camping tents are no match for negative temperatures, trust me. There's no word out there yet when New York's other 199 social equity branded adult use licenses will be awarded, or when their doors will too be open. But I hope it's as expeditiously executed and they get at least some of the love and hype from regulators and the press as this one will surely have over the next 7 days leading to their launch. Congratulations, Housing Works, and good luck on the landmark opening. Also, New York Cannabis for making all of the haters and naysayers out there eat crow on a technicality. And to all the folks traveling to Manhattan next week to be part of the legal cannabis history, I hope it's everything that you dreamed it would be. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, reporting live for High 9 News. Now let's talk about that $100 bet between Jason Beck and Gretchen.
First of all, Rico, you called it a soft opening. Okay, there's no way in hell that they're going to have any product that's going to be ready for sale.
It's an opening.
Okay, on this opening day. So therefore, it is not an opening. Okay, it's just people gathering around, fucking stroking each other off. Oh yeah, look how great a job we did, guys. Hey, we're open. Da 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 da. We have nothing to sell.
Gretchen is right.
I think we need to send Dr. Mary as an official correspondent down to this joint and see what is being put out there.
Yes,
I'm down. Dr. Mary, I want to see a receipt from an actual transaction of a purchase of actual cannabis.
And number one, the bet never said purchases were necessary. The bet was that the dispensary would open.
That wasn't your deal.
And opening a dispensary means that you're selling weed. That's what it means. It means that you're selling weed. It's not like, oh, I signed a lease on a place and all of a sudden my doors are open and I'm selling clothes and I'm just gifting weed.
Jason, that is actually the way that it might have to happen, and that's
no, it's not. No, it's not.
That's the way.
No, it's not. That's not an opening. That is fake news.
That's the way it happens.
That is total bullshit.
If you're not perfect, don't open your doors.
It's not, if you're not selling weed, if you're not selling weed, you're not open. That's what I'm saying. If you're not selling weed, you're not open.
It's New York. They're selling weed. I'll come up from Texas and give you a receipt.
Come on up from Texas. Come on up from Texas. Yeah, because we already know you're probably running out of Delta 8 down there, and all of a sudden you're gonna have to get some.
There are plenty of rooftops in New York.
Yeah, I know of a little bodega you can actually get some really good fire California weed at right around the corner.
You just need us all chip in. Jason, if time's been tough lately,
what's that?
To pay her, do you want us all to just put $20 in? It'd be all right. I'll throw $20 at it.
Not at all.
Congratulations, Gretchen.
It's not a congratulations at all until you produce a receipt, Dr. Mary,
okay, man.
or we see on the news that the first legal sale happens in New York. It is not a real store.
And while you're at it, Jason, you can tack on that other 100 for the pardons you owe me.
It's not the end of the year yet. It's not the end of the year yet, and Massachusetts still has a pardon coming up.
Like I said, the details were a little scant. They were a little scant on this one, but I do believe the quote unquote soft opening is because almost all of the damn day is going to be a photo op with a bunch of politicians, and they're going to start selling weed at 4:20 p.m.
Well, if they start selling weed, if they do actually sell some weed at 4:20, I will pay Gretchen the $100 on that bet 100%. No questions asked. But to me, a dispensary is not open legally unless you're actually selling weed out of it.
Jason, I'm just trying to understand, why do you think they're not selling weed? Where in the press release are you saying they're not selling?
Well, because it's so I've been to dispensaries that have done a soft opening and they're not even ready to sell any weed yet. They're just like, hey, we're here, we're gonna be here, we're gonna be open in a couple weeks.
They're not going to sell weed. You're just making that up in your cute little head.
No, they're not gonna have enough. Where are they gonna get where are they gonna get all this weed from? Have it tested and have it packaged as a finished product by the 29th. By the 29th, how's that gonna happen?
Are you kidding me? Of course it's ready. You're out of your mind.
It's not ready.
How many stories have you done with all this weed hanging out in New York waiting to be sold? What are you talking about? There's plenty of weed.
That weed is from two years ago, okay, and is already dried.
How old it is, you owe me $100.
Terpenes have already been sucked out by the atmosphere.
Specifically for but I get it. You are the longest running operator in cannabis ever.
You're not open if you're not selling weed. All right, this is the bottom line.
You're crazy. Why do you think they're not selling
I bet you weed?
You may be paying rent on the space, but if you're not open and you're not selling weed, you're not an open store, period.
Jason, weed will be sold. You owe me money. Live with it.
If weed is sold, I will pay you the $100, but I do
can't
not
wait.
believe that they're going to have their shit together in time to actually sell weed on the 29th.
Gretchen, what are you gonna do with that $100, man?
Hey,
I don't know.
so quick question for everybody else,
Something
like a side note
fancy.
from the bet and the technicalities here. What do you guys think that is going to mean for the rest of, like, we all know this is just a political bullshit like play to absolutely get one open before
It's a
the end of the
photo
year.
op. I'm surprised Steve D'Angelo isn't going to this.
Oh, simmer down.
Who says he
I
won't
think-
be? Who says
No,
Thank
I'm
you,
just
Rico.
saying.
Here we go.
I'm going to be surprised if Stevie D ain't there.
There's
I'm
so
just
much
saying.
assuming going on today, Jason.
So,
Just
no,
open your mind.
No, but what do you guys
Everybody's
think
going to
about,
be
like, the
there,
rest?
even
I
Steve.
hear you. I hear you,
They said
Rico.
they said the first 200 are supposed to be social equity. Like, what about the rest of them? When are they going to get their shot at opening their doors as well?
I think what we need
Good
to look
question.
at this as is truly, even though Jason thinks it's bullshit, a great move for New York. Because know what this tells you? It tells you that the regulators, the folks, they are behind this. They are pushing so hard to get these stores open. And we've always said in the past that once a state legalizes, it takes about 2 years to go from the vote to actually getting stores open. So they are way ahead of the time clock here. New York is
They're
pushing
not.
hard. This is
Unless they have a
this is
sale,
what-
they're not pushing
thing.
ahead.
They are
And
pushing.
Rico, you know, it looks like the social equity thing is coming online. Is never good for you?
The 33rd of Nevuary.
It's going to
Mhm.
start at Neverland.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
Yeah,
good job, New York.
I'm
I
happy for
applaud
the
them for
technicality,
working hard.
Yeah, hustling, doing what New York does.
My fingers are crossed. And I hope that the rest of the 199 that they promise, I hope they actually do get to open sometime soon. And I wish them the best of luck. Keep it positive.
Yeah, I wish them
Yeah,
all the
Jason,
best
get
of
some
luck.
Christmas spirit.
Hey, I'm with it. Hey, like I said, if they actually sell some
Krampus.
weed, and there's because there's going to be a whole new news story about the first legal sale happening in New York. So unless that's happening, you're not getting paid, Gretchen, because that.
Oh,
is
I'm
a
getting my
fake
money.
news story.
It's going to be Dr. Mary Clifton down in front with her money.
I want to see Dr. Mary's
Steve
receipt
D'Angelo's
from the
going to show up
store.
with his own
I got
POS.
you. I got
Yeah.
you.
That could
Dr.
be
Steve
good.
D'Angelo on the
That could be
scene.
good. That could be good.
Let's keep this party going. All right, so she's a spicy redheaded conservative, well known in DC circles for cooking up excellence in the kitchen. But next week, if all goes according to plan, she'll be collecting a couple of Benjis owed by Jason Beck. Coming to the stage, we've got the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey.
Good afternoon. I'm about to be rich, and I wish I could bank it, but oh well, Congress sucks. My headline is coming from Marijuana Moment. Senator confirms Safe Plus marijuana banking deal includes gun rights and expungements. As congressional lawmakers lament the failure to get marijuana banking legislation attached to a large-scale spending bill, one senator is giving details about what bipartisan negotiations over the so-called Safe Plus package entailed, including important expungement and Second Amendment right provisions. While it has been previously reported that gun rights were included in the package in order to get buy-in from conservatives, as lawmakers pushed to produce passable legislation during the lame duck session, the new comments from Senator Jeff Merkley appear to be the first on-the-record confirmation from a lawmaker on the issue. Even though key legislators agreed on the framework of the cannabis reform deal, they couldn't push past opposition from Republican leaders who refused to allow it to be included in a large-scale legislation. But Merkley, a prime sponsor of the Safe Banking Act, says we've done so much progress on forging bipartisan consensus, and we won't rest until we get it done. The comments echo points that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer made on Tuesday, in which he also blamed Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Pat Toomey for tanking the marijuana reform as part of the omnibus appropriations legislation. McConnell's opposition has also been cited as the reason the reform wasn't included in the NDAA earlier this month. But Schumer's remarks at a briefing on Tuesday didn't reference specifics about what lawmakers were negotiating in terms of the much-anticipated Safe Plus. While Politico first reported that gun rights would be a feature of the legislation, and sources have told Marijuana Moment the same over recent months, no legislative language of the deal has been publicly released. Merkley tweeted, "We have a bipartisan agreement which includes tweaks to safe banking and important expungement and Second Amendment right provisions." That seems to reference the bipartisan Harnessing Opportunities by Pursuing Expungement Act, otherwise known as the HOPE Act, which would incentivize states and local governments to expunge cannabis records in their jurisdictions, and the Gun Rights and Marijuana Act, which would protect Second Amendment rights for cannabis consumers by exempting people in legalized states from a federal restriction that bars any unlawful user of a controlled substance from owning a firearm. The note about tweaks to safe banking possibly referred to changes were made at the behest of the Justice Department, which sent a memo at the request of Republican senators outlining concerns about potential unintended consequences of the reform as it relates to money laundering and other issues. Sources previously said that those DOJ concerns had been resolved, but a small group of senators still met with the department this month to seek assurances. The tweaks also could have been related to equity-related components. Advocates have pushed for more targeted language to ensure that the bill supports equity goals and didn't primarily stand to benefit large corporate interests. For those who lost loved ones in dispensary robberies, for illegal cannabis businesses who can't get access to financial services they need, for communities where cannabis is legal, I'm good. We can't let political block meaningful common sense public safety and cannabis legislation, according to Merkley. I won't stop pushing to pass the Safe Banking Act. We pursued every legislative avenue possible this year, and our bipartisan coalition is closer than ever before getting to the finish line. Cannabis businesses can't wait. We must pass it in 2023. Well, I love Senator Jeff Merkley for all of a sudden giving a shit about safe banking. I don't know what's been taking him so long. And frankly, if you want to talk about dropping the ball on the goal line, why don't we talk about Chuck Schumer blocking it from the 20 back earlier this year when all he did was care about passing his own legislation instead of one that actually had the votes and could get done. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News. I'm looking forward to some gun rights. I think that's a great thing. I'm hoping this moves forward in 2023, but I will not be making any bets on safe banking anytime soon. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
This motherfucker's doing the icky shuffle after the clock already ran out.
It's ridiculous.
All right, exactly.
I mean, this is dead, man.
This is just more of the same from our Democratic electeds. I mean, I'm not surprised.
On the Democrats, it's all these congressional motherfuckers, man. It's all of them. They're all trash.
Sorry, that's what I meant. All of our electeds, Democratic electeds. I didn't say Democrats. Democratic electeds. Okay, democratically elected people. Yeah,
spin there,
okay.
Jason.
Yeah, that's what was the intention of the comment. So, nonetheless,
look at the angry. He's coming up off them dollars for you.
I mean,
bro, I have no problem paying bets that I legitimately lost. But unless there's a sale, it's not a store. It's a t-shirt shop. Just saying. Okay.
Back to the story.
And the weed has to be fresh, okay? Because if it's not fresh,
I don't care. It could be 3 years old. I don't care.
No, you
as
said
long,
you
as
cared
long as
when
it
you
tests
said
higher
2
than
years old, you started
0.03.
talking shit. So.
As long as it tests higher than hemp, and it's actually weed.
Do we think gun rights should be included? Do we think
hell
this
to the yes?
Yes.
Hell
Yes.
to the yes.
Fuck yes. Fuck
Yes.
yes. Why are we
Rico,
even
how do you
talking
feel about them
that?
taking on gun rights and dumping social equity?
I feel great about it because most social equity programs don't work anyway.
This Virginia boy loves his guns. I will always fight for social equity because
Get it? You know,
always
whatever.
fight for social equity because it was promised to us. Period. But at the heart of things, like man, like social equity it's a buzzword, and nobody can agree on what it truly means. So I'm always going to fight for pushing it forward, and actually the people that were promised something by these government and assholes, and I'm always going to stand by that. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a buzzword, and when people of color especially ask for stuff from the government, we're lucky if we get 10 cents on the dollar asked for.
Yeah, respectfully, I hear you, and I absolutely support that. But I don't like it when my rights are taken away, and my guns are my right.
Never.
So why are we even talking about social equity and gun rights in the same breath? It's like all it is more just rhetoric. They're windbags. They want to talk themselves into the grave. They all want to hold on to their jobs. They're all fucking egomaniacs. I mean, if we're still talking about Congress, in my opinion, from where I'm sitting, and I'm in Texas. So, Jesus, it's like, why are we even talking about guns in when it comes to marijuana. And
There's only
it's a points game.
Yeah.
If one side wants something, the other side has to get something
Yeah.
in return. It's absolute bullshit, and nobody
called a
wins.
trade-off.
It's just not equal.
It's the horse trade.
It's not equal.
It's a fucking
It's
soccer
Brittany
game.
That's how it
Griner,
works. We do have
God of
Steven
War.
up from the audience in Clubhouse. What do you have to say about this, Steven?
Well, as far as the cannabis and gun rights go, I think it's very imperative. Personally, I live in the middle of national forest where I've cultivated cannabis for the last 20 plus years. And I've always found it really ridiculous that I would be federally prosecuted, not for necessarily the cannabis, but for the possession of guns when I live in the middle of national forest where generally guns are necessary to ward off
Guns are
many
necessary everywhere,
things.
Stephen. Guns are necessary everywhere.
And I agree with you, Jason. I am a Democrat, and I do believe in freaking the right to bear arms, and I think all the BS about gun restrictions is terrible. And the biggest gun restriction is that of cannabis users. Like what cannabis user that owns a gun is out there freaking in the middle of the street firing it off? I've never met one.
Never.
So that has always disturbed me because I do cultivate cannabis. What if somebody was to come rob me? How would I protect myself? I'm glad. I'm absolutely ecstatic that they're including that in it, because just as they did it here in California, they made cannabis no worse than having alcohol in your house when it comes to your children and CPS. I think the same should happen with guns, because all this is just prohibition bullshit that they've put on us, and the prohibition used to end already, gosh darn it.
Yes.
Oh,
I
Thank
mean,
you
if
so
you
much,
do a
Stephen.
gun
Move on.
restriction, does it then allow you, if you find somebody who's got a gun and who has cannabis, you can get them on two different
That's what law
laws, and
enforcement
then give 'em-
often tries to do. Is they'll say that
Yeah.
there was a firearm in the commission of a crime, and that crime being a drug transaction, and boom. Yes,
Jason,
go ahead.
remember that story that we covered last year in Oklahoma when that guy tried to defend his own fucking cultivations, his
Yep.
own grow, ended up killing an intruder, and he went to fucking prison for that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
this shit is crazy, bro.
Wow.
This shit is crazy. But you know what? I also wonder too, if this were to pass, would basically that case in Florida that Nikki Fried is charging, would that just get dismissed before it goes to the Supreme Court? What do you think, Gretchen?
I mean, I'm no attorney, but yeah, I think it would definitely not be an issue anymore. I don't think the court would take it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would basically be dismissed.
No, it would just be not taken up by the Supreme Court. It wouldn't be dismissed.
Well, I guess
the
Supreme Court would dismiss taking up the case. Then how about that?
You would have to follow the lower court's ruling.
Exactly.
Okay, well, it's not dismissed.
Well, they would dismiss.
Words matter, Jason. I know you love to throw around like
they would
nothing,
dismiss.
like
They would dismiss the case in regards to taking it up.
Words matter.
They would dismiss the case as far as taking it up on the Supreme Court.
Lexicon, schmexicon.
Okay,
Yeah.
in your world, yes. In Jason Beck's head,
That's
it's
right.
dismissed.
In Jason Beck's world, let's pay a quick bill, and we'll get right back to the news.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit and hustle and diversity of our great city of Angels, and we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
The thoughts and opinions or shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any county, area, or territory or of any authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish any fiduciary relationship. Our sponsors do not imply or constitute any endorsement by us or the expression of any opinion whatsoever on the part of any speaker on stage. If you are an easily offended person, this show is probably not for you. And maybe you should just go to Texas and buy some Delta 8. Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order.
This feminized Lone Star state advocate and storyteller is the co-founder of Grow House Media, pumping out some of the most entertaining industry-specific content I've seen coming from a non-legal state, period. She can be found weekly on her podcast by the same damn name, Feminized, where she interviews some of the dopest women in the game and is all about gifting, giving, and living life to its fullest this Christmas season. Coming straight out of the great state of Texas, y'all know who it is, Liz Grow.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for that intro, Rico. Oh, I love it. Before I start this story, I just want to share some Texas hemp with you guys. That's what it looks like.
Oh, man.
Smells very good.
Gross.
I'm going to go ahead and jump right on into the story that the majority of Texas voters back marijuana legalization and 3 in 4 support decriminalization, a poll finds. Like, fucking shocker. Majority of Texas voters support legalization of marijuana, says a recent poll that the University of Texas took. Now, the University of Texas takes polls on this issue probably yearly, and the numbers are always high. So I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but the majority, so 72% back decriminalization of marijuana by making the offense by making the offense punishable by a citation and a fine without the threat of jail time. So the majority of Texans want to legalize cannabis or decriminalize cannabis, keep people out of jail, keep our resources from flowing into law enforcement for bullshit possession offenses. And that's really what's happening here. And that's really what we're trying to do as Texans. We're trying to take that back. In 2019, we spent $311 million on the enforcement of low-level possession in Texas. So that's just really fucked up. Every 2 years, we have the opportunity to change the laws here in Texas. We can't put forth a referendum from the citizens. If we even have 30 million signatures, it doesn't get to be heard by our representatives or our Senate. Or lawmakers have to write these bills, present them. And so this is happening. This is coming up very quickly in January, okay? So in January 2023. So I'm going to read this, you guys. So this poll is special because it does send a clear message that Texas voters are eager for reform, with 55% saying that they believe that cannabis possession should be legal for any purpose, either in any amount or small amounts. Another 28% said that marijuana should be legal for medical purposes only, while 17% said it shouldn't be legal at all. There's always going to be like that rural, uneducated, group. We have 30 million people in the state. It's crazy. But so what we're really trying to do here is get our lawmakers to put forth smart legislation around cannabis policy. And I will, just hope that you guys do try to follow the Texas story in the new year as the session kind of heats up, because Texas is a big state and we obviously want cannabis so badly. We want all of it in all forms so badly. I mean, we're like inventing shit. Okay. We've got Delta 8, we've got Delta Infinity. I heard there's a Delta 10 coming out. It's insane. Okay. So Texans want full access to this plant. And so this legislative session, a lot could happen. Last legislative session, we expanded the medical program to include PTSD and all types of cancer. So I have my Texas prescription. We don't have a medical card. We have a prescription because we don't protect our doctors who are prescribing this federally illegal drug to us. That's fucking crazy too. But I have my prescription because I was diagnosed with PTSD. So, if anything else, I do hope that we expand the medical program this year. But we have to decriminalize. We have to keep our communities of color out of jail because we know that's who's going in for these offenses. It's just about the data. And it's still very, very sad. I think that you could get a felony for a vape cartridge here in Texas. So, be afraid. Wear your boots, okay, as they say, if you come to Texas. Now, I do want to remind y'all that at midterms, voters in 5 cities had the chance to weigh in on reform, and all of the cities passed cannabis measures on their ballots. And all of these cities had decriminalization. That was the measure, to decrim, to not put people in jail. Well, listen to this. In one of the cities, Harker Heights, the city council voted to repeal. So a small group of people who look the same voted to repeal what the voters said they wanted because they need more information. So that's happening there. So very disappointing. We have an amazing group here in Texas called Ground Game. Ground Game Texas is doing amazing things. They are going door to door and getting signatures so that we can start on that very local level because we can change laws on a local level. But of course, we still have to fight the small powers that be. Colleen is also another city kind of like, saying, hey, we're not going to do this yet. We need more research. And the voters are like, no, fuck that. So I think they're moving forward. Austin voted to decrim in May, and there's been no pushback, of course, because Austin is like, hello, what the fuck? Give us our weed. But meanwhile, San Antonio, which is the second largest city in Texas by population, and it's closest city to me. I'm kind of in between San Antonio and Austin. They could get the chance to locally decriminalize marijuana in May 2023 after activists announced in October that they were launching signature drive for ballot placement. So I'm super excited to just share this news with you guys and really hear what you have to think about the efforts that are, happening, things that are happening in Texas. And from the outside looking in, it is crazy as it sounds. This is Liz Groh reporting from deep in the heart of Texas, live for High at 9 News.
Liz, thank you. We really appreciate you and Stone Slade coming from Texas and always keeping Texas on top of the news here. With New York going down, I think Texas is the last big economic force in the United States left to move forward on this. And 100%, we do need to stand behind Texas. All jokes aside, we do need to stand behind Texas, make sure that we get this done going forward. That being said,
California needs water. California needs Texas's water too. We got to strike a deal. Yes.
What are you guys going to do about what we had Stone talk about this yesterday? What are you guys going to do about Dan Patrick? Because he seems to be the roadblock in the way of anything going forward.
He is. What are we going to do about Dan Patrick? I guess what we could continue to try to do is just raise awareness that we have a fox in the hen house, as they say. And this motherfucking fox has been there for a very long time. He's from Baltimore. He has ulterior motives. He is not good for Texas on so many issues. However, he keeps getting voted in. We also, the candidate, the opposing candidate just doesn't seem to be passionate enough. I mean, go out and get those fucking votes. This truly is, a life or death thing. And I guess I feel like there's just a lot of complacency in Texas. I'll be real. Those who are woke to the fact that, cannabis is truly a medicine and, is here for us on this earth for us. Genesis 1:29, herb-bearing seed, that's cannabis. Right. Once you believe that, it's like, whoa, this is awesome. But there's millions of people who don't believe that.
Yeah, you guys have the most draconian jail sentences for non-violent crimes as well. Big shout out to 40 Tons and Freedom Grows, what they've been doing.
Yes.
And the last two events. Last night we were at Green Street, and I did fire off 2 more letters to prisoners, and 3 of the 4 that I've done in the last couple of weeks were in Texas, and the one that I did last night was a gentleman that's doing 60 years for nonviolent cannabis crime. What the fuck is that? And then they're all from fucking Texas.
Just a travesty.
60 years. It's cruel.
So Liz, I have
I
to ask a
gotta,
question because there was an issue that came up in the chat, and you
yes,
mentioned that in Texas that the doctors actually write a prescription
yes,
for
they do.
cannabis.
Yes,
Okay,
they do.
and so there's a big
Oh,
debate going on whether it's a actual prescription or
yeah.
still just a recommendation that they're calling a prescription. But how do they get around the fact that pharmaceutical drugs that are written in prescription form have to be issued by a pharmacy? And so does the state designate those stores as actual pharmacies, but only for cannabis? Or how does that work in Texas?
Yes. So, I think we shouldn't muddy the waters with the way the state operates in the big pharma arena. There's a lot of money pumping through there, and they've got different rules. With cannabis, we have license holders. We're a vertically integrated state. We have 6 license holders in the state of Texas. They won their licenses in 2019. And there are only 2 operational right now. It's a very expensive process. All of them are from out of state, except for one has an in-state founder who has actually just left the organization. So we've got 2 vertically integrated dispensaries, if you will. There are limited locations because the laws will dictate that you have to if you're delivering product to a patient, you have to leave and return the same day. And Texas is so fucking big, you can't serve the whole state. So most of our state isn't being served. I mean, if you're in Austin,
Yeah,
you're in luck. If you're in
but
Dallas,
Liz,
you're in luck. But you can go to a dispensary, but we're in a computer. We're in a system. We're in the database, baby. We're in the teacup program. And we have doctors who are certified they have to take a program, and then they are able to write a prescription. This is what they're calling it, but it's not a card. So I can't go to Oklahoma and get reciprocity.
no, that's not
I can't go to
that's not what I'm
DC and get
asking.
reciprocity.
But
I'm just clarifying. I'm just, there may be questions around that too.
no. That's the real question is since you said that they have to call it a prescription, right?
Yeah.
No doctor legally federally can write a prescription for a Schedule 1 drug because there is no
Exactly.
perceived medical value. Okay.
Exactly.
And basically all pharmaceutical drugs got to be issued by a pharmacy.
Yes, she
So
does know
in
what she's
regards to
talking about,
that,
Nick
how
Bailey.
does Texas have its law crafted?
Nick Bailey, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I don't know where you're from, but I'm here,
feed the
and I've been a
trolls.
part of
Yeah,
the system.
we don't
Very,
feed the
very
trolls.
soon.
No,
No,
we
but I'm
don't
just
we
saying.
don't feed the trolls like that.
You're right. No, you're right. We don't feed the trolls. We don't feed the trolls. I love the trolls. The trolls are so entertaining. But it's true. There's a lot of confusion out there. Texas has left our doctors kind of out on a limb and in this gray area of this recommendation/prescription. And Texas has washed their hands of it. So it's not a comfortable thing. My doctor has talked about it. I've interviewed him about it. And it's not a comfortable thing for them. But now they're getting certified in ketamine prescriptions. So they're working in this gray area. A lot of doctors are in Texas. So, but that's how we feed the beast. The program is set up like that. It's really, really crazy. And it's really draconian and very confusing. I can understand how you're confused out there. But it's, we're working to make it better.
All right. Well, we gotta keep it moving.
Totally.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
For
Thanks
all
for
of that.
giving me
And we're
that.
gonna get some more answers in regards to this Texas situation, guys. I promise you
Yes.
that.
America
But
got
coming up
questions.
next, she's an integrative medicine internist and a two-time best-selling author, the CEO of Balanced Medicinals. Dr. Mary joins us today from NYC. She does the research and converts it into effective treatments so you don't have to. When she's not treating patients with alternative medicines, she can be found in front of her video camera cooking or walking the Upper East Side because she's out there in Manhattan shopping around at trap stores in the corner and little bodegas getting all the fire. That's right. It is Dr. Mary Clifton.
Thank you for that introduction, Jason. I have a what should be considered a groundbreaking survey completed off of 5,000 participants this August, and the results were published in addition to other places in Marijuana Moment. States with legal marijuana have less underage use and impaired driving than states where marijuana remains criminalized. This is where in states where marijuana remain criminalized, we see people initiate cannabis at a younger age, 4 months younger than in states where it's legal recreationally or medicinally. They consume more frequently, like 7.9 times a week compared to a little under 6 times a week. And they drive while under the influence more often, according to this study. This was done by the Cannabis Public Policy Consulting, the CPPC, and it should be noted that they support Marijuana Moment through a monthly pledge on their Patreon. They looked at public health outcomes in 25 states and collected data from 5,000 surveys, and found that these differences were present. Going over them each in detail, the average age of initiation in illicit states is 16.7 years old compared to 17 years old. And while that's not a huge difference, the researchers point out that the difference of 4 months earlier in cannabis use could very well represent a critical part of youth development. It's also another key finding concerned frequency of use for those among aged 16 to 20. Consistent with the initiation, young people living in illicit states used marijuana more frequently, basically every other day, 13.6, which is nearly double the 7.9 average in medical, and also higher than the 9.5 in recreational states. So quite a bit more, 13.6 in illicit states, as opposed to somewhere between 9.5 and 7.9. So 5 days less of cannabis use in people from regulated states compared to illicit states. And the survey also looked at driving while using cannabis, and found that in medical states, the rate was 4.2 days per month, in adult use states, 4.3, and in illicit states, 5.1. So basically 1 more day a month, of driving while having used cannabis, whether or not that's even relevant to any particular driving outcomes. But this is really a pretty good size survey. 5,000 surveys collected. You'd have to spend a bit more time digging around to find out how they identified the people that they were going to do the surveys on. But still, regardless, we do keep seeing this. This isn't the first time that we've seen this finding where, states that are legal have an older age to onset of use, and less illicit use, and less problems with teenagers getting into it. So I'm wondering what you all think about that, and why you think that's happening. I mean, it just seems like if it was legal, everybody could access it more readily because it's just available in more homes. Then I always think of kids getting into drugs by like running around the Christmas party and taking a little sip off of everybody's champagne from the side table, and that's how kids find out about alcohol in a lot of cases. So I figure the same thing must be happening with cannabis. I mean, what do you guys think? Why is it that people that are in these, regulated situations are actually experiencing less bleed over into the teenage population?
I think kids don't want to do what their parents are able to do. I think that's why we've definitely seen the lower numbers in the legalized states. That folks just are. The stigma is going away. It's not this wonderful taboo thing to fight the man anymore. And, if you can just go and get it in your local dispensary. So I think that's definitely why younger participants have not been entering the market in some of these legal markets.
I mean, there's certainly still the same number of people who are dealing with addictive issues. It isn't like we've corrected that gene problem, or we've corrected parenting patterns that contribute to, some childhood trauma. So I don't, it's not that the problem is going away, but I mean, they're still drinking alcohol, and mom and dad have been drinking alcohol for years.
I can tell you what I think attributes to that number, Dr. Mary,
What
is
do you
the
think?
fact that a lot of these kids don't have a lot of the money to go and shop in the regulated stores. So they're saving money by shopping on the trap market because it's overtaxed and overregulated, and they can exactly just go and buy it in the free market and not have to worry about going to the regulated market, and now they're not part of the data.
Yeah, that's where I think you'd have to be really careful with how you're collecting the data and who you're asking to complete this survey, because these kids they might not want to admit that they're smoking in a regulated market when they are, because they don't want to get busted for smoking illegal weed. So unless you're being really careful with your data collection and the kid doesn't think that his email is going to get diverted somewhere and then he'll get busted or she'll get busted, maybe that's maybe the kids are not being quite as truthful and straightforward in a regulated market.
Dr. Mary, where are these numbers coming from?
Well, it was a survey of 5,000. It was 5,000 surveys that were taken in August by this CPPC, and I didn't dig in exactly to where they got the surveys yet. I can quickly look at that. But no, I don't know.
Yeah.
The short answer is I don't know.
I wonder what the like police data says. You know, they pick up so many kids and they mark them down for weed. You know, I wonder what that data looks like going from
How many kids?
legacy.
How many?
I
You mean like
you
how
know,
many
it just
minors get
happens.
caught with cannabis?
Yeah. And just compare those numbers.
I'm willing to bet it's a lot, because all across the country we have a lot less people getting arrested overall right now.
Right. But I mean, minors, you know, I'm just saying the number of minors that goes to jail or that gets picked up on a yearly basis, cannabis or not, there shouldn't be that much, you know, variety. Like it shouldn't vary that much. Right. And so they mark it down probably when they're caught with weed. Right. I'd imagine. Of course, one more thing to fuck them with. And so there's some with weed, some without weed. And then we have that data, those with weed. And then when the market becomes legal, they still have 100 kids getting pulled in. You know, how many of those kids, do they still mark the weed? And yes, of course, they would still mark the weed. Then how many of those kids? That's the question. I wonder what that looks like. Because I would trust that more than survey data.
Interesting.
Very. But we are at the top
Dr.
of the hour.
Mary.
We are at the top of the hour. We got to close it out. Yeah. You got 10 seconds for final statement on that, or we good?
Oh, I just found that the data was collected from the quarterly regulatory determinants of cannabis outcomes survey. So I'm not sure. I'm still not sure who was surveyed. 5,000 U.S. residents across 25 states, but how they were collected really is still not very clear.
Let's keep on following that money. But thank you all out there for tuning in with us for another episode of High 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our live audience members and online supporters tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Our vetted industry correspondent team tuning in from all over the globe, community, bringing us much needed variety, perspective, and adding respected opinions to the conversation. And to our production team, the wonderful Jaja Simone holding things down every damn day in Clubhouse, and Adam in the background keeping our AV struggles in check. We couldn't put it all together without you. And to the haters, we love you all so much, but know that feeding you our joy is the only way that y'all can get your color back. I watched the damn Troll movie with my daughter 2 times this week, and I know I am so much on to your antics. Finally, Cannabis Sativa L, you are the sacred reason the High at 9 News team shows up to read these headlines every day. Thanks, babe. It's Thursday, December 22nd, 2022. The show's over, and you've been blessed with the top industry headlines. We hope it was enough to put in your pipe and smoke it at least until tomorrow. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, signing off. And please remember, Daddy Shark Gang. Daddy Shark Gang, 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 gang. Merry Christmas, y'all.
Bye.